So I'm ready to begin my increase row. I am at row, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to be on row 8. That's where I began my increases on the cowl. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So my increase row is going to be on a half double crochet on this contrasting color. For me, that's white. Now, for yours may be, you may have decided that after this row you wanted to do your increase row, or maybe you wanted to go even further. That's up to you. Either way, the increase row is going to work the same way, regardless of whether you're doing half double crochets with your contrast color or you're doing double crochets with your main color. The same way to increase is the same. So let's take a look at how that works. So what we do is we've just joined with a slip stitch, and on the first stitch what we're going to do is the same as every other row. We're going to chain 2, and then we're going to do our second stitch in that same place where we did the slip stitch. Now the increase comes in the next stitch. So whether these are half double crochets or double crochets, it doesn't matter. Either way, you're going to be doing 2 stitches. In my case, it's going to be half double crochets, because this for me is going to be a row 8. And I'm just calling this increase row A. So ordinarily in that stitch would have been a single stitch. Now it's going to be a double stitch. So we have a double stitch and a double stitch. Then we have a single, and then we have our 3 stitches together. And again, all of these stitches are being worked into the back horizontal bar. So then we mirror this on the other side, on the straightaway, what I call the straightaway on the other side. We do a single, and then we do 2 into the same stitch, and we finish like we always do at the end of our sequence with 2 into the same stitch, and that's one whole sequence completed. This is the line that shows where the repeat ends. So again, it's 2 stitches into 1, 2 stitches into 1, then a single, then 3 together, a single, 2 into 1, and 2 into 1. And you just repeat this over and over, and that's going to increase your your stitch count by 2 stitches for each repeat. So if you've made your cowl the same size as mine, if you started with 45 chains, you're going to have 2 times 5 more stitches. It's going to add 10 stitches on that increase row. So you'll have 55 stitches at that point. All right, so let's take a look at that. And remember, it doesn't matter if it's half double crochets or double crochets, you're going to increase in the same way. So just continue to follow the pattern wherever you put your increase. If it's your main color, you're going to be doing double crochets. If it's your contrasting color, you're going to be doing half double crochets. All right, so I'm going to show you that now. Okay, so I'm ready to begin my row 8, which is an increase row A. And I'm going to switch from my main color over to back to the white, which is we're calling the contrast color. So I'm going to switch back to the white. I'm going to pull the white through the loop on my hook, and I'm going to pull this main color tight to secure that down, and I'm going to chain 2. And I just kind of hold that as I do those chains to keep it from pulling out, to keep it secure. So I'm going to start with 2 stitches into that first stitch. And again, just as before, we are going to look for where to go into by pulling on the color yarn from the previous row, and we can see that it's pulling right through this hole right here. So that's where we're going to go into. So I'm going to be doing half double crochets in this row. So I'm going to yarn over and then yarn over, pull through 3. So that's 2. So now I'm going to go into my next stitch, and again I'm making sure not to miss this first stitch, and I'm going to do 2 into this. So I'm going to yarn over, I'm going to go into that back bar, and I'm going to do 2 into that same stitch. That's 1. And that's 2. So there's 1 increase made. Now I'm going to do just 1. So we did our 2 and we did our 2. I just did 1. Now we're going to do 3 together. So I yarn over, go into the first stitch, yarn over, go into the second stitch, yarn over, go into the third stitch, and yarn over, pull through all 7 loops on my hook. Now I'm going to mirror on the other side. I'm going to do 1, this one here, and then I'm going to do 2 into the next stitch and 2 into the next stitch. So this one is our increase. And then this is our normal last stitch, which is 2. And that is 1 section, 1 repeat completed. Let's do that one more time, and then I'll let you do it on your own. So we're going to start with 2 into 1 and 2 into 1. Yarn over, go into this back bar. It's 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. Now we're going to do a single half double crochet, not a single crochet, but half double crochet on its own. And now it's time to do 3 together. Yarn over, go into the first stitch, yarn over, go into, sorry about that, go into the second stitch, and again all through the back bar, yarn over, go into the third stitch, yarn over, pull through all 7 loops on the hook. Then we mirror on the other side, half double crochet, and then we're going to do 2 and 2. So that's 1 and 2. We're going to do that again. 1 and 2. Okay, so we've now done 2 repeats of the pattern. You're just going to continue with your repeats to the end, and then we'll join here and I'll show you what we do with the next row. Okay, so I'm at the end of row 8, or my increase row A, and I'm just going to join the way we joined all the other rows by doing a slip stitch into the second chain from our chain 2, the beginning. And now let's take a look at what we do after the increase row A. And the next row I'm just going to call row B. And what we do is it's going to be similar to like our regular rows, row 3 and 4, in that we're going to start with 2 stitches in that first stitch where our slip stitch was. The only difference is now, where before we always had 2 stitches in the what I call the straightaway on either side of the 3 together. Now we're going to have 3 on our straightaways. So after the 2 in the same stitch, we're going to have 3 stitches, and then we're going to have 3 together, and then we're going to have 3 stitches mirroring the side, and then we're going to have 2 in the same. So very similar to, say, our row 3 and row 4, where we have 2 stitches on either end, 2 stitches in the middle on either side, and then 3 stitches together in the center. So just take a look at that again. It's 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 3 together, 1, 2, 3, and 2. And if you're doing this the same as me, this will be your row 9, and these will be double crochets in our main color. And again, all of these stitches are going to be worked into the back thread, or the back bar, as they call it. Now, if you did yours in at a different stage than when I did it, yours might be half double crochets, and that's okay. You'll do exactly the same thing. It'll just be your half double crochets. But if you're on the same track as me, these are all going to be double crochets. So let's just take a quick look at that. This should be very easy to follow now. We're going to switch back to our main color. I'm going to get the contrasting color out of the way. I'm going to grab the main color, pull it through the loop on the hook. I'm going to pull that contrasting color tight to kind of lock that down. And I'm going to chain 2. And right into that same place, I'm going to do my second stitch. And not missing the first stitch, I'm going to start here. And I'm going to do 3 double crochets. That's 1 in the first stitch. That's 2. And that's 3. So those are those 3, and now we're at the 3 together. One, 2, 3, and then we pull through all 4 loops. And now remember, we're going to mirror on the other side. So we're going to do 3 double crochets, 3 individual double crochets, always working into that back bar. Okay, that's 3. So that's the 3 on the straightaway, and now we're going to do 2 to finish the sequence, to finish that pattern repeat. That's 1 into that stitch, and this is 2 into that stitch. Okay, so you're just going to repeat that over again. You're just going to do 2 into the next stitch, 3 individually, then 3 together, then 3 individually, and then 2 into the next stitch, and just repeat that to the end. And then I'll show you the next increase row. Okay, so I just finished my row 8 with a slip stitch. Now, for the next row after that increase row, we're going to do a row what I call row B. This was increase row A, and I'm just going to call this row B because it may come at different places for different people depending on how you are, where you put your increases. So in this case, what we're going to do is in the very first stitch, just like in our row 3 and row 4, we're going to start with 2 stitches into the first stitch. Then our straightaway, instead of having 2 stitches in our straightaway like we've had before, because we had the increase on that last row, our straightaways now have 3 stitches. So it goes 2 into 1 stitch, then 3 individual stitches, then 3 together, then 3 individual stitches, and then 2 together, and that's 1 whole repeat. Now it doesn't matter whether these are half double crochets or double crochets. If you're following the pattern identical to me, for you they are going to be double crochets and they're going to be in your main color. But if you've done your increase either before or after mine, yours, then you might be on a half double crochet row. Just continue with the same switching of colors and switching of half double crochets and double crochets. So once you do that repeat, it just starts all over again. 2 stitches, 3 individual stitches, 3 together, 3 individual, and then 2 in the same stitch. And again, all of these stitches are in the back bar. So let's take a look at how that's going to look on our project. So I had just joined with a slip stitch. I'm going to take my main color, pull it through the white, and I'm just going to take that white and I'm going to pull that nice and tight to secure it. I'm going to hold that in place as I chain 2. That counts as my first double crochet, and now I'm going to do a double crochet right into where the slip stitch was. That's right in there. Okay, and now my straightaway is going to be 3 double crochets. So let's make sure we don't miss that first stitch. I'm going to go into the back bar and on this thick yarn the back bars is easy to do. It's harder on thin yarn. So that's 1, this is 2, and this is 3. And now we're at the place where we're going to do 3 together. So we yarn over, go into the first stitch, and we complete half of it. Go into, yarn over and go into the second stitch and complete half of it, and go into the third stitch and complete half of it, and then we complete all 3 of them together by going through all 4 loops. So we're at the bottom of the hill, now we're going up the hill on the straightaway again, so we're going to mirror like the other side. So we're going to do 3 double crochets. That's 1, 2, and 3. and in the last stitch of the repeat we do 2. All right, so you're just going to repeat that all the way around. 2 stitches, 3 individual stitches, 3 stitches done together, 3 individual stitches, 2 into the same stitch. Go all the way around to the end, and then I'll show you how we do our next increase row. Okay, so I just finished my row 9 with a slip stitch, or what I'm referring to as row B. And now we're going to do another increase row, and I'm going to call that increase row C. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So for increase row C, it's going to be similar to increase row A. We're going to start off with our chain 2 and a second stitch in that same slip stitch from the previous row, or round rather. Then just like in increase row A, instead of doing a single stitch in the next stitch, we're going to do 2 stitches in the next stitch. And then we're going to do 2 stitches, 3 together, 2 stitches, and 2 into 1 and 2 into 1. And that is the end of that repeat. So again, it's 2 and 2, then 1, 1, 3 together, 1, 1, 2, and 2. So let's take a look at that. And again, it doesn't matter whether it's double crochets or half double crochets. In our case, it's going to be half double crochets. And all of these stitches are going to be in the back bar. That's why we have this little thing on the bottom, this little line on the bottom indicates that it's through the back bar. Okay. So we're going to do increase row C. We're going to drop our main color, and we're going to pick up the white. Again, I'm going to pick up the white, pull it through the loop on our hook, grab the main color and pull that tight to secure our contrasting color. We're going to chain 2, and we are going to do a second stitch right where that slip stitch was, and we can pull that main color to see where that place is that we need to go into. It's right here. So this is for us, it's a half double crochet row. So that's 2. And now we're going to do 2 into the next stitch, and then 2 individual stitches, and then 3 together. So remember, we don't want to miss this first stitch. We're going to go into that back bar. We're going to do 2 into that same stitch. It's 1 and 2, and that's one of our increases. Now we're going to do 2 individually, so that's 1 and that's 2. And now we're going to do 3 together. So, and we can always double check it that our center stitch should be a 3 together from the previous row, and we can see that that is the case here. So we're on track. So we're going to yarn over, go into the first stitch, yarn over, go into the second stitch, yarn over, go into the third stitch, and then yarn over and pull through all 7 loops on the hook. Now we're going to do 2 individual stitches on the other side to mirror our downhill. Now we're going uphill. That's 1 and 2, and now we're going to do 2 into the next stitch. So 1 into that stitch and 2 into that stitch. That's our increase right here. And now we finish with 2 into the next one. 1 and 2. And that's 1 repeat. So we're going to do 4 more of those repeats around, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, so we are ready to begin row D. And this row is going to be our last row. You do have the option to continue doing increases every other row if you would like, and you just use the same formula if you want to do another increase row, where you add 2 stitches into that second stitch on either side of the valley. So for our last row, which is going to be, let's see, row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This is going to be row 11. We're going to start with our chain 2 and a second double crochet right in that same stitch. And now, because of our increase from our last row, we are going to have 4 stitches in our straightaway. And of course, as usual, they're all into that back bar. Then we have 3 together, all in the back bar, and then again 4 in the straightaway on the other side. All in the back bar, and then 2 double crochets into the last stitch in the back bar, and that is our repeat. So 2, 4, 3 together, 4 individually, and then 2 into the same stitch. And that's going to be our last row. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so let's begin our row 11, which I'm calling row D. And we're going to be switching back to our main color. So I'm going to pull the main color through that contrasting color, the white. I'm going to pull that tight. We've done this a million times now. I'm going to hold that tight, and I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2, and into that same space where the slip stitch was, I'm going to do a second double crochet, and now I'm ready to do 4 double crochets on the straightaway. Making sure not to miss that first stitch. It's very easy to miss. It kind of can get stuck underneath this one here, so making sure we're not missing that. It's the only one that's a little hard sometimes if it's tight. And there we go. there's that back bar. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Did the 4. Now we're ready for the 3 together. And we can double check that we're in the right place. The next 3 stitches, we have 1 here, then we have a 3 together from the previous row. This opening here corresponds with this 3 together stitch, and then the third one. So yarn over, go into the first stitch. Oops. Finish half of the stitch, yarn over, go into the second stitch, finish half of it, go into the third stitch, finish half of it, and then we finish all 3 together by going through all 4 loops, yarning over and go through all 4 loops. Now we're going to do 4 on the straightaway on the uphill. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we finish the repeat with 2 stitches into the same stitch. That's this one here. Okay, so then you're just going to continue to do that repeat all the way around, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, so I just finished row 11, and I'm just going to, I joined with a slip stitch. I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to cut the yarn, pull that yarn through, and I'm going to sew in the ends, and the cowl is complete. So now let me show you how you can use this same pattern to make a hat. All right, so to make the hat, you're going to do a starting chain of 36 chains. So it's going to be 4 repeats of this pattern. The only difference is there's going to be no increase rows. So you're just going to work this pattern through to row 12. So you're basically going to work row 1 and 2, and then row 3 and 4 you're going to repeat until you have a total of 12 rows, which is what I have here. And once you have that, you're going to, I just finished this row here. This is row 12. Okay, so then I'm just going to cut my yarn, and I'm going to pull the yarn through, and I'm going to sew in my ends, and then I'm going to show you how we close up the top to make the hat. Okay, so to close up the top of the hat, we're going to turn it inside out. And this was our starting edge, and what we're going to do is we are going to fold these 4 edges in, and we are going to just, you can either slip stitch or single crochet around. So let's join our yarn to do that. So I'm just going to start down at one corner here. I'm going to put my hook through, and I'm going to lay the yarn on top, and I'm going to pull through a loop. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slip stitch. I'm going to match up the stitches with each other along the way, and I'm just going to slip stitch across. And actually I'm going to do single crochet so that I can work this tail in. So I yarn over and pull through a loop and yarn over, pull through 2. I'm going to go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Go into the next stitch on each side, single crochet, now I'm going to switch to the next section. So now I'm going to jump across to this corner stitch here and this corner stitch here. So I'm going to go into this one here and this one here. Yarn over, and I'm going to do a single crochet, and then I'm going to keep working up, single crochet with each corresponding stitch along the way. Till I get to the last one. So I'm going to do a chain 1 there and cut off that yarn, pull the yarn through, and I'll sew in that end. Now I'm just going to do the same thing across these sides that I did along this edge. So I'm just going to attach the yarn out here at the corner stitch. Pull a loop through, and then I'm just going to work into each stitch on the corresponding sides, and I'm going to work in my tail as I go, doing single crochet across. Then across this, let me just get one more in here. Okay, and then I'm just going to slip stitch across this ridge here. Till I come to the other side. I'm going to go into the stitch on one side, and then the stitch on the other side, continuing to work in that tail, single crochet, just put one more in here, and then I'm going to do a chain 1, cut the yarn, and I will sew in those 2 tails. And then what we'll do is, the hat is complete, it's all closed up at the top, and then you can make a pom-pom for it if you like, or you can wear it as is. Now for any of these, either the hat or the the cowls, you could add a row of the Faux fur as a little embellishment with a little bit of fur on the edge if you'd like. And you would just attach the yarn. Let's go ahead and do that. Just attach it in the back. And then we'll just do a row of single crochet or maybe even double crochet. You can see what seems to work the best. I'm going to do half double crochet into each stitch. Across the top here. Let's see how that looks. And then when you come around to the end, you're just going to slip stitch into the beginning, chain one, and cut the yarn and sew it in. And I think I'm going to keep it. I think I like it. So let's see if we how that will look with the hat. So I also added the fur along the rim of the hat, and now I'm going to make a pom-pom for it. Let's show you how to do that. Okay, so to make the pom-pom, we're going to use our pom-pom maker. We're going to open up both sides. We're going to grab our yarn, and we are going to start wrapping it around one side. We can trim this end at the end. And you're just going to wrap it around until the whole thing is covered. And what you want to do is make sure that nothing gets on this bottom part here. So just wrap that all around that side. So then you just want to get your yarn all the way back over to where you started over here. And then you're going to close that up. You're going to pull the yarn down through here and start wrapping it on this side. Let me get my yarn out. And just wrap this side as well until the whole thing is completely wrapped. Okay, when that side's wrapped, you're going to pull it down through here and we're going to close it up. Now what we're going to do is you can cut this end and keep it closed. We're going to go through and we're just going to cut these down the middle. And then cut down the middle on the other side. It would probably be helpful if I had a little sharper scissors. Okay, this worked a little better. Make sure that all of this is cut. All right, and then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a bit of yarn, and we are going to put it down the center. Oops, I have a couple that didn't get cut over here. We're going to pull that all the way to the center, and then we're going to tie a knot, pull it all the way through, and then tie another one, pull that all the way through, and now it is ready to open up. We're going to pull these guys open. On either side. And then pull this apart. And you have your pom-pom, and you can trim it to get it all even, which I will do. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to sew this into the top of the hat. Okay, so what I've done is I've taken, oops, sorry about that, I've taken the two strings that are attached to the pom-pom, and I've pulled them into the center of the hat, and I'm going to pull that through now and tie a knot underneath the hat. Nice and tight. And I'll sew those ends in. And then what you can also do is you can take another piece of yarn, and cut it, and then you can take your yarn needle and just sew this, attach this so that it's a little bit more sturdy. Just turn your hat inside out. You can go from the inside of the hat, go down on one side, go through the center of the pom-pom, and then go down through another side of the pom-pom, back through the bottom of the hat, the inside, pull that through, and then just go through one more time on another side. Go down through there, go through the center of the pom-pom again, make sure that's pulled tight, and then I'm going to go through another section of the pom-pom and come out again the bottom of the hat here, or the inside of the hat. And then what I'll do is just tie these in a knot. Oops, tie these in a knot, and I'll sew in all those ends, and that will be completed. And so now our Snowdrifts cowl is completed. This one we made in the Fisherman white, this kind of cream color, and Carousel, the Lion Brand Thick and Quick. And you can see how it compares next to the one made in Fisherman and Fossil. This one is lined with the faux fur, and this one is not, so you can kind of get a feel for whether you might want to make it lined with faux fur or not. And then here is the matching hat, the Snowdrifts hat, and it's got a nice wave pattern in it, and I also lined this one in faux fur along the edge, which is optional. So if you liked this pattern, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps me a lot in being able to continue to deliver you free patterns every week. And do sign up, subscribe here at my channel, and click the alert bell so that you'll know every time I have a new pattern or review or yarn giveaway available. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. What colors do you think you might use, or if you do make this pattern and post it on one of the social media sites, give us a link so that we can all take a look at yours. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.